It shouldn't be a good movie. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons, the movie? What does that even mean? Hi, my name is Haley Whipjack. I am a Dungeons & Dragons content creator, and I have been equal parts stoked and skeptical about this movie for literal years, and we finally have it in our hands. We're going to start spoiler-free until this timestamp. So if you haven't seen it yet, stick around until exactly then, and then bounce forward a chapter to the end. Little disclaimer, little clarification. Despite my incredible charisma and my ties to the game of Dungeons & Dragons and the brand, I am not getting paid or in any way compensated to review this movie. I was sent a PR package of a backpack and a sweatshirt a week ago, but that was just in exchange for a social media post to show it off, and I've already done that. This video is just because I want to do it, and these opinions are the ones that I contain. I had to get my own movie ticket and everything. Second disclaimer, to get it out of the way, I'm not talking about the movie Dungeons & Dragons 2000 at all in this video. I was a single-year-old when it came out. I haven't seen it. It has nothing to do with Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves 2023, and it's just not the topic of discussion. I'm sorry, don't expect it. It does not exist here. New movie. In this first section of my review of Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves 2023, we are not talking spoilers. I will not be discussing any plot elements in details. However, I will be bringing up some minor or aesthetic details. I'm just going to stay away from actual discussions of character dynamics or conflict or villains. Actual spoilers like that are coming up later. This part is safe for all, and I'm going to try and keep it quick and easy. So, here we go. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves 2023 is good. It's a very good movie. It shouldn't be a good movie. I stand by that. Conceptually, I don't know how we ended up with such a good movie, but Honor Among Thieves feels like a D&D campaign set to film. And it feels like that in 100 different ways. One of the very first side characters we meet is named Jonathan. Tell me that your dungeon master would not panic and say the name Jonathan with their mouth. Lie to me. We have the cliche player character backstories, nonsense plans that hit 100 bumps in the road, found family dynamics woven through the whole thing. It is super lighthearted and funny with that solid emotional core of the inner party dynamics. They do at a couple different points try for heavier emotional scenes. Those didn't land heavily with me because the movie never feels like it's going to deliver a high stakes consequence. It's too light and fast and fun for that. But light and fast and fun isn't a bad thing to be. It just means the movie wasn't going to make me cry. The pacing of Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves 2023 is wicked fast, combined with kind of a loose plot, which means I kind of forgot how much had happened in the movie until I looked back at the very end and realized we literally hit like 7 different towns and 2 different planes of existence, and it had barely registered. One of my absolute favorite things about this movie was the presence and reliance on practical effects. Many of the sets were partially or fully practical, and so were many of the non-human or further from human creatures. The folks behind the production, particularly directors Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly, have been showing off these behind-the-scenes practical effects on their social medias. They've been showing the real animatronics that they created and used for a tabaxi child, that is the cat person race. The real suit that they used for the aforementioned Jonathan, who's an Aarakocra or a bird person, complete with extending wings. And the real special effect that they used for 2 characters falling into the floor that was made possible with fine sand and high pressure air coming through it. That one fully blew my mind. I could not believe it. It looks crazy. They were pulling these actors around on strings. They were having background characters sit in crazy makeup and prosthetics and suits. I love it. With such an increased reliance on CGI effects in recent big budget movies, think Marvel Cinematic Universe, seeing these eccentric characters with like a real weight and presence in the scenes was so nice. The character designs for the main party are nothing special, and we could talk for hours and hours and hours about how the tiefling just looks like a teenage girl, but when you're trying to make a movie with enough general appeal that it will launch a franchise, you are not going to cover up a single recognizable face, and Sophia Lillis is a recognizable face. General appeal, my friends, to an average moviegoer, a set of horns and a tail reads perfectly devilish. And they don't know what a tiefling is anyway. And while none of the main party's aesthetics were like necessarily interesting, they all had their own aesthetic and like their own colors. And the costumes were still really pretty and nice to look at. I would gladly wear any of those outfits in a heartbeat. Speaking of being nice to look at, Chris Pine was perfectly cast as the bard and face of the party. He's the best Chris in Hollywood. He's always been the best Chris in Hollywood. Literally, fight me in the parking lot about it. Look at him in AOS Star Trek. Look at him in Into the Woods. He has been essentially preparing for this role for years. His character's name, though, Edgin Darvis, so bad to say. In the mouth feel, not good. Edgin. I know you don't want to say he's edging the bard, but come on. The other real cast standouts for me are Michelle Rodriguez and Regé-Jean Page. Not to say anything against Justin Smith or Sophia Lillis or Hugh Grant. I think everyone did a great job. But the chemistry that Michelle Rodriguez's barbarian Holga and Edgin had, this completely platonic capital P chemistry, by the way, and the instant charm of Regé-Jean Page's Zank were both so good. Michelle Rodriguez has had years of high-octane found family films under her belt, and Regé-Jean Page has done plenty of the stilted, formal, noble energy. Basically, they were both perfectly cast. This movie is also funny as hell. I went with people I've played a lot of Dungeons & Dragons with, and we did a good amount of leaning over and whispering to identify to each other which of the people we play with would have executed specific shenanigans we were seeing on screen. And from what I've seen of other people's responses, that is not a unique experience. People are seeing their own games, their own experiences with D&D being emulated on screen, which is honestly incredible. You can feel the nat 20s when the characters hit them, but more importantly, you can feel the nat 1s. There's no fourth wall breaks, not even one, but I really felt like I was hearing the Dungeon Master just sighing fondly at their friends' antics the whole time. It was silly. It was funny. It was full of love. I highly recommend seeing it. Highly. And looking at both the critics and audience scores, so does everyone else. I think if you've never played Dungeons & Dragons, you'll enjoy it as an action adventure. You won't be missing out. And if you've played a lot of Dungeons & Dragons, you'll enjoy picking out every single Easter egg. And that's about all I can say without venturing into Spoiler Town. So chugga chugga choo choo, the train is pulling into Spoiler Town. Are you ready? We're at the station. This is about to be for people who've seen the movie. If you're not ready, then I'll see you on the other side, okay? The other side, the next chapter. That other side is this time code. I'm about to say spoilers. You ready? 3, 2, 1. He used the tablets to bring back her mom. Sorry. I don't want to talk about the entire plot. Just some more specific things I couldn't address in the spoiler-free section. Let's dig a little bit more into the characters first. I personally am a sucker for ensemble casts. I love to have a lot of characters to dig into. I've got favorites. I've got least favorites. I love them all. However, our main duo, the bard and barbarian Edgin and Holga, and their platonic co-parenting. It is like the writers looked directly into my brain and they found my primary weakness. Their like pseudo-sibling relationship was the foundation of the entire movie. And they've just got each other in a way that's so common in games of D&D and was so delightful to see up on the screen. And they're co-parenting Edgin's daughter, Kira, who's played by Chloe Coleman, who's so cute. And this little triad was so good every time it was on screen. Holga calling her Bug, come on. It's cheating. Can I also just say, Edgin's backstory that he's explaining at the beginning when they're still in the prison is so cliche that I expected him to be lying. But no, he really does have a tragic dead wife that he blames himself for. You and everybody else, bud. Holga's ex being Tiny Bradley Cooper threw me all the way off. There was an article forever ago referencing Holga having a very small husband, so I knew there was going to be a tiny man that she loved, but I gotta say, it being Bradley Cooper meant that I could not pay attention to that scene. I was too busy wondering, is that Bradley Cooper? Also, as much as I've been praising the effects in this movie, that was not a good one. He did not look correct in that scene. That was a very fake, small man. And he didn't do a bad job, but I think that was a very weird, maybe obnoxious casting choice. I wouldn't have put Bradley Cooper in there. That's all I'm saying. But it is hilarious and very D&D to have Holga's type be very little men and her tiny ex's type to be huge women that could kill him in a second. Their friend from previous adventure and our wild magic sorcerer is Simon, played by Justice Smith. Simon is here to make mistakes and learn to love himself. And that is it. Nothing about Simon was groundbreaking. It was mostly predictable, but it was still very sweet. That big moment of revelation that I guess it was me that was in my way the whole time. Babe, everyone has been telling you that the whole movie. The whole time. I love you. Yeah, he was cute. Not my favorite character here, but the movie would have been worse without his energy and his contributions. And his use of magic, but we'll get into how spell casting was divvied up around the characters later. Simon has a big crush on our druid and environmentalist with a threatened homeland. Again, we go with the cliche player character backstories. Doric. Doric didn't do much. She did a lot for the plot. They couldn't have done it without her and her infinite wild shapes. But her character did not do anything for me. We don't get to learn anything about her people. We don't know what she wants after this story ends. I don't care about her thing with Simon. I like that they didn't fall madly in love, that they're just going to give courting another try, but I don't see it for them. Long term, I am deeply in love with Sophia Lillis, though. So I was very happy to have her here. And maybe I'll read the Doric-centric prequel novel that they released if I'm ready to commit to doing a 180 and becoming obsessed with her. Because that is what will happen. Yeah, she was cool. She was cute. She was there. She did not leave that much of an impression on me. Which is a real shame because I fully expected her to be my favorite going in. But if we do want to talk favorites, the party needs to enlist the help of a legendary paladin to hunt down a magical item, so they link up with Zank. Zank is the best part of this movie. Zank was hilarious. And there was no good plot reason for him to not be there the whole movie. He's really just around for the second act. The second act is Zanktown, and then he leaves. And if memory serves, he doesn't even really give a reason. He's sort of just anyway, got you guys the thing. Seems like you have it from here. Have a good time fighting off the bad guy that I am closely, actually, interpersonally connected to. Hope it goes well. However, his exit was funny enough that I don't care. Somehow, a man walking over a rock was one of the funniest jokes in a 2-hour-long movie, and I kid you not. That was apparently improvised by Regé-Jean Page on the day. All hail. Saves innocent kittens. Do enough banter with Chris Pine that everyone's going to ship those two together. Be super impressive in combat. Drop his tragic backstory and leave. A legend. I want him to hug me. The last party adjacent character is Forge. And Forge was fun. I'm just not attached to him. Hugh Grant is always great, and I think he was having a lot of fun every time that he was in a scene. It certainly seems like he was. I think I was just maybe asked to care about too many other people in this movie, and I had nothing left for him, which is weird because, like I said, I'm normally so in love with an ensemble cast and deeply involved in everybody's things. Forge just didn't have any redeeming qualities other than that he was fun to watch, because he was very fun to watch. The main thing I ended up caring about in relation to Forge was his relationship with Kira, Edgin's daughter. It allowed for an interesting foil to Edgin and Holga's relationship with Kira. If the message of this story is about the family you choose, and I think we can all agree that it is interesting to have different facets of chosen family. Forge is Kira's chosen family at the start of this movie, for all intents and purposes, but she's only there because he lied to her. Forge's primary character trait is he's a self-serving traitor. He lies to children and orders for his friends to be killed then lies to the children again about that. He doesn't love that kid. And even if he did, it doesn't matter, because it isn't enough to choose your family and to love those people. You have to center them and do right by them. Forge is giving Kira a good and comfortable life, but he likes her because having a child to shape makes him feel akin to a god. She's another avenue of power to him. He's just not that deep. Attached to Forge are the villains, the Red Wizards of Thay. Easy BBEG, big bad evil guy material. They make zombies. They want world domination. They are not any more complex than that. Why do they want to do that? Power. To what end? Don't ask questions. Are they compelling? No, they are not. This movie did not have room for a morally interesting villain. They kind of filled in that need with Zank a little bit, but there was too much going on for Safina to have any sort of complex motivation. We needed a straightforward, shady, 100% evil bad guy, and that's what we got. Safina does not interest me, and maybe that's for the best. Does it still make me a little bit sad that I'm incapable of caring about the villain? Yeah, a little. They could have given her a single redeeming quality. One? She did a good joke at the beginning when Forged asked her to cool down his tea, so she turned her finger all icy and then stuck her actual hand in his tea. That was funny. I think it's the only funny thing she did all movie. Overall, I like the characters, I like the party dynamics, and I wanted to see more of it. If we wanted a 3-hour-long movie by just adding in scenes of the characters interacting and fucking around, you know those D&D sessions where you forget to roll dice for a long time because you and your buddies are just arguing about a made-up scenario? Could have been nice. Could have been nice. Would have totally fucked the pacing of this movie. I know why it's not in there. It's just a little bit of a bummer that I don't know the characters as well as I feel like I could have. I gotta talk about the MacGuffins. What's a MacGuffin? A MacGuffin is an item in a story, particularly a movie or a TV show, that only exists to further the plot, to get the characters from here to over there. We need the magic gem so that the final confrontation can happen, whatever. Some people call them MacGuffins. There are 3 MacGuffins in this movie, arguably too many. At the very least, I can say they all fulfill different enough purposes that you're not going to get them mixed up. The first one of these is the Tablet of Reawakening that informs Edgin's backstory, is a continued guest throughout the story, and is vital in the final emotional moments as well. This tablet can bring back anyone from any type of death, which is great, because apparently there's almost no way to reverse the damage done by a Red Wizard of Thay, and those are our bad guys, so we need this thing. How convenient. Edgin's wife was killed by a Red Wizard of Thay that was seeking revenge on Edgin for stealing treasure from them. So Edgin seeks out this tablet so he can resurrect Kira's mom, which he gets caught, and him and Holga go to prison, and the whole movie happens. Later in the movie, he does admit that he didn't want to resurrect Kira's mom. What he really wanted was to bring back his wife, which seems like semantics, and it is, because his wife and Kira's mom are the same person. But Kira never knew her mom. Her mom died when she was a literal infant. So he keeps telling himself that this act would be for Kira, but it wouldn't be. She doesn't know that lady. Edgin wants to do this for him because he's grieving. He got stuck on the idea that he could fix this and bring his wife back from the dead after like 10 years easily. It's a selfish desire masquerading as a selfless one. And he tells this revelation to Kira. It's actually Safina in disguise, and never says it again to his actual daughter, which I think is fair. Let's save that one for therapy. But in the end, he does use the tablet to bring back Kira's mom after Holga is killed in the final battle against Safina, because it's about the family you choose. That's her mom! The second wildly important magical item MacGuffin in this movie was the Helm of Disjunction, which I had to check and make sure that was the actual name of it, because disjunction is a very silly word. This helmet can get past any magical seal. It interrupts or breaks any magic, and it's the thing that causes the entire second act of the movie. We go to the Underdark for this thing. We trust our overpowered DMPC Zenk for this thing. We fight a dragon for this thing. It does not matter to the third act literally at all. Simon learns to love himself on his way to attuning to it, and that's all we need it for. In the end, I'm not mad about it, but after the movie was over, I was struck with how little this thing mattered. Like, technically it was used to get past a magical seal, which is what they got it for, but they didn't need to do that in the end. So now Simon just has a cool hat if he wants it. And the last very important magic item, I don't think you can actually qualify it as a MacGuffin because it's not something they're seeking or that's powering the plot by the nature of its existence, but it is awfully convenient for them, is the hither-thither staff. The item that launched 1,000 Discord messages from dungeon masters to their parties. No, you cannot have a portal gun. My DM would let us have a portal gun. You guys need cooler DMs. And it is literally a portal gun. This staff rules. And it allows for exactly the amount of shenanigans you would expect if you handed a portal gun to a D&D party. It was one of those instances where you could tell that the folks behind this movie have played years and years and years of TTRPGs. They know. They know. I expect there are already official stats for the hither-thither staff on D&D Beyond. If there aren't, why? I just think it's hilarious. They made up a new magic item for this movie, and it's the best one I've ever seen in my life. Hell yeah. I do want to quickly talk about things that annoying people on the internet are mad about. So, things I've already noticed people are mad about. The first one people have been mad about since our very first look at the movie, which is that the whole party looks too human. We covered this already. General audiences want to see Chris Pine, not a dragonborn. And the cool designs still get to shine in the more minor characters. They're trying to launch something here. Maybe in future projects, our main character will be a goblin, but that's not a great broad appeal place to start. Is it mildly disappointing? Yes, it is. But I think you have to know what kind of movie you're getting from the beginning and sort of temper your expectations from there. It's the same reason we didn't get any broad queer representation from this movie, even though huge swaths of the D&D community are powered by queer folks. Because they're just going for broad appeal here. Is it a little disappointing? Yes, it is. Is it surprising? No. The infinite wild shapes from the druid. Doric shifted forms, I want to say, 7 times in the span of a single chase scene, escaping Neverwinter. And I think that rules. Like, can you imagine Sophia Lillis sitting the party down and saying, now, I can change my form 2 plus my wisdom modifier times per day. No! She turns into animals. It's all she does. She also turns into an owlbear multiple times because that rules. Is that technically D&D rules as written? No. But it slaps. It's a movie. Rule of cool will win every time. Bouncing off of turning into an animal is all she does, so she should be allowed to do it infinite times. The Bard and the Druid don't use magic. Once again, I return to explaining that this is for general audiences to launch a franchise. The party has a magic user. It's Simon. It would have been confusing for people unfamiliar with the minutiae of Dungeons & Dragons to give a bunch of people magic that have these difficult to discern differences. It could have done it. It would have required a lot of explicit explanation that would have bogged down the movie and its pacing. So instead, there is a magic user, a shapeshifter, and a man with a lute. Edgin does not cast a single spell, and he uses his lute as a weapon just as often as he uses it for music. And I love it. I love it. I just know in my heart that he has 6 hit points. Last miscellaneous spoiler things I wanted to say. I can't overstate how much I appreciated that Edgin and Holga did not have a romance subplot going on, that they were even like actively angry that anybody assumed that they would. It felt correct and good. The recurring motif of the blue dragonfly as a symbol of needing to let things go instead of holding them in place was effective, if a bit on the nose. I did like that he didn't bring his wife back after 10 plus years of her being gone. Can't imagine it would have gone well. I think letting her rest was the correct choice. The Speak with Dead scene is cinema gold. I wanted to sit here and say it goes on too long, but I had a really good time with every second of it, so I can't tell you that in good faith. It was a long-ass scene with a lot of skeletons, practical skeletons, telling the stories of how they died, and they all did a great job. I didn't love everything about the movie. I didn't find all of the beats or references or characters necessary, but God, if it didn't keep my brain busy for 2 hours and gave me fun things to talk about on the car ride home, what else do you need an action-adventure movie to be? Like, I don't think it's going to be a hit on AO3. I don't think people are going to sit around and theorize and analyze the movie. I don't think it's that deep. But it really did let me turn my brain off for a little while and just think about how much I love Dungeons & Dragons. So good job, Hasbro. So now what? What are the next steps of Dungeons & Dragons as a property that can get adapted to film? I think we can say the movie was a success. People love it. And D&D fans were so skeptical because literally, what do you mean you're making a Dungeons & Dragons movie? Say you're making a Curse of Strahd movie or something. Don't make it representative of the entire game. That's not how it works. And yet, it's representative. People have been won over by the clear passion for and understanding of the role-playing game. Hard-hearted, bitter nerds have ceded their points, and only the worst of them were counting wild shapes to find something to get mad about. It is possible that this movie won't turn a real profit. The budget was $150 million pre-marketing, and this thing had a crazy amount of marketing. I mean, have you even just seen the AMC popcorn buckets? After premieres, pre-screenings, and opening weekend, it has made $70 million back, so it needs to keep performing well to get all of its costs recouped. Word of mouth has been very positive and very prevalent, so I personally foresee it at least breaking even, you know? But I don't think the point for this one was financial success. I think it was winning over and breaking down the nerds. Hasbro wants a cinematic universe. Are you surprised? Of course you're not. Everyone wants a cinematic universe. I haven't heard any rumblings of direct sequels to Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves 2023. Not yet, at least. And I'm not sure this story would be a great contender for having a sequel anyway. But what is better for hundreds of spin-offs than a game with hundreds of pre-written stories and thousands more unwritten potential stories? And they're already working on it. Paramount Plus will be receiving an 8-episode Dungeons & Dragons series, the pilot of which was written and will be directed by Rawson Marshall Thurber. Talk about panic NPC names. Rawson Thurber. No, I don't think so. Rawson Marshall Thurber was the director of Red Notice 2021, a movie I haven't seen but was apparently wildly successful. We don't currently have any details about plot, characters, titles, or release date, but we know Hasbro is hungry for more watchable media. Hasbro acquired television production company Entertainment One for a reason. Yeah, they acquired a production company. They want it bad. And now they've got the nerds interested. We're leaving the door cracked open. We might be willing to check out what else they've got on offer. We might even buy a Paramount Plus subscription. Quite frankly, I'm worried about it. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves 2023 director John Francis Daley has nerd pedigree in spades, and I don't know much about co-director Jonathan Goldstein, but I would easily believe he does as well. They seemed committed to the tone, the tropes, the types of effects, the types of world building that is required to nail down the ephemeral concept of Dungeons & Dragons. I followed them both on Twitter. They have been so childishly excited about this movie coming out for months and months. They love this thing. And I'm sure they love the money and the notoriety it's bringing them as well. But I truly do believe that this was also a passion project in a way for them. They managed to do what seemed like the impossible here and sort of capture this lightning in a bottle. And I worry that moving to TV, moving to different hands, different crews, will lose some of the magic that they got in there. But who knows? Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves 2023 had no business being this good. It's frankly annoying that it was this good. Maybe they'll be able to do it again. But until then, we all get to watch the internet argue about the movie's mechanical minutiae. Yay! Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for liking, for subscribing, for commenting, for telling me your favorite part of the movie, for telling me the things that I missed and the things that you blatantly disagree with me on. If you'd like to see some more from me, you can follow me on TikTok at Whipjack, WHIPJack. You can follow me on Twitter at Whippedjack, WHIPPED Jack. And you can find my podcast, Unprepared Casters, anywhere podcasts are found. I'll see you next time. I don't want to be on the internet the day they announce the Curse of Strahd live-action miniseries. I don't think I'll be able to handle that, like, raw energy. Lord protect the man they get to portray that vampire. I cannot imagine.